Hello children, welcome to the part 2 video. So the next part we are going to see is of the work of ice. So here these are the, as we learnt about the work of sea waves and we learnt about the work of river. So in the work of river we learnt about the waterfalls, how the waterfalls form, how the meanders, how the floodplain, how the leaves and this oxflow lakes and the delta formed, we learnt about it. And work of sea waves we learnt about the sea caves, the arches and the sea stacks and the sea glyphs, how they are formed, we learnt it. But now due to this work of ice, what are so here the glaciers are also the rivers of ice that weather rocks and erode and deposit sediments that form different landforms. So here the glaciers and moraines. That means glaciers are rivers of ice, as I told you, na. So like rivers carry along sand and stones, as rivers also will carry the sand and stone that eventually build up to form deltas. Glaciers also transport sand and stones that build up to form moraine. So here moraine, the deposits of sand and stone left behind by the moving glacier. There are total 4 types of moraines. So just we learn about work of wind now. So here here mushrooms rocks, these are generally found in deserts. So you can see the picture over there, the rock which was found like a mushroom. So how are these rocks formed? So when the winds erode the lower section of the rock more than the upper part, therefore such rocks have narrower base and wider top. So you can see that it looks like a mushroom, right? So then the next one is of sand dunes and loess. So when you see the picture, you can find it out that you can find it out in the desert, isn't it? So when the wind blows, it lifts and transports sand from one place to another. So when it stops blowing, the sand falls and gets deposited in the low hill like structures like India and USA. Then what do you mean by lowest? When the grains of sand are very fine and light, the wind can carry it over very long distances. So when such sand is deposited in the large areas, it is called loess. So here you can see this loess in the China. So again I'll repeat it. Sand dunes means when the wind blows, it lifts and transports. So it can lift and transport sand from one place to another. So when it stops blowing, the sand falls. What happened? It will get deposited in a low hill like structures. So where it can be seen, it can be seen in India and USA. The loess means when the grains of sand are very fine and light. When the sand particle was very fine and lightweight means the wind can carry it over very long distances. So when such sand is deposited in large areas, it is called as loess. So as we learnt about the mushroom, so these two things are work of wind, that is of mushroom rocks and the sand dunes and loess. So another part we saw now, glaciers and this moraines, that is will tell it as glaciers as well as the moraine. So as we learnt about the glaciers or the rivers of ice, how it forms like rivers when as it carries the sand and stones that eventually build to form the deltas, isn't it? Same like that, the glaciers also transport the sand and stones as we learnt in the river form, right? So same like glaciers, so same like deltas, here glaciers also will transport the sand and stones that can build up to form the moraines. So here moraines means the deposits of the sand and stones which are left behind by a moving glaciers, and these are all types of 4 types. So that was not given in the book, just learn it as 4 types. So I hope that you all listen to this class. So as we have to learn in this lesson is of what do you mean by endogenic forces and what do you mean by exogenic forces. So endogenic forces is of which we learnt about the outer layer, and exogenic is which we are going to learn about the inner part of the earth, isn't it? So in the endogenic we learnt about the plate tectonics. So these forms will become the effects of endogenic or of forming mountains, forming volcanoes, and how it becomes earthquakes, how we get the earthquake. So we learnt about the plate tectonics due to this. And the next part we learnt about the exogenic forces. By withering, erosion and deposition we learnt, isn't it? By that we learnt about work of a river, work of sea waves, and work of ice and work of wind. So in the work of river we learnt about how the waterfalls formed, isn't it? How the waterfalls formed. From that waterfalls, the meander may form like when the overflows, it will flow as a twist and turn, and it will look like a horse, like, isn't it? And then we learnt about the delta, and we learnt about the leaves, and we learnt about the food floodplain, and we learnt another one is there, oxbow. We learnt about the Oxbow Lakes. Oxbow Lakes is of, it was turning and twisting. No, at that part it will stop at one particular place, and it will form another one bank lake. So bank means you all know, no? Bank not State Bank or Canara Bank. It was like bank means the overflow of water will stop at a particular place, and either sides, on the both the sides, it will stop flowing, and it will stand as a bank. That means it will stand like a river, small river. So it was known as Oxbow Lake. So if you refer it in the book, they have shown the arrow mark in your book, so you can refer that. Then we learnt about the sea waves, work of sea waves, like sea stacks. We learned sea caves means how it formed. When the waves flow very fastly, when it strikes over the rock, here the sea caves formed. And after that, when it was again the sea waves hit, it will form the cave inside the rock. All the rocks will come out because of the speed waves, and it will form as a arch. So we'll tell it a sea arch. So the arch, after some days, when it was forcefully, the waves moves very forcefully on the arch, the upper part of the arch may fall down, and it will become a sea stacks. And the glyphs means it will erode the base of the land on the shore, and it forms as a rocky coast. So here this we can see in the coastal areas I told you. So this is known as sea glyph. And we learnt about the work of ice. Work of ice is of glaciers and moraines. So we learnt that the glaciers are also like rivers, isn't it? So here the particles of sand and stones, it will build as we learnt, and deltas, like deltas, here glaciers also form like, isn't it? Then we learnt about the moraine, and here then we learnt about the work of wind. Wind means by the wind two things is happening, that is of mushroom rocks, and another one is of sand dunes, and we'll tell it as loess. Okay, so this mushroom rocks looks like a mushroom. It is mostly found in deserts, isn't it? Then the next is sand dunes. So by this I'll end up the session. So learn this thing, and I'll send you the homework in the Google Classroom. Just do it and send it. Thank you, dear children.